Hi, this is week 3, session 3 of Have a Ball Writing Your First Novel. This session is about the nitty-gritty of organizing your process, and you're probably thinking, really, Gina? Can we get any nittier and grittier? Like, we're already in the moss here, forget the forest, we're in the moss, we're in the lichen. Uh, this is probably going to be one of the last sessions on organization. I didn't want to start with it at the tippy top because wow, that I think that's just a total buzzkill. Isn't it just a lot more fun to swim and play in your subconscious? However, I didn't want to wait too much later. Actually, I had this further down, but I thought the better of it because I am of the opinion, based on my experience of writing my first novel and actually having written 9 nonfiction books, that, and I've learned the hard way, that if you're not fairly organized about your content early in your process, it becomes arduous to deal with your manuscript later. So this is the last of the organization bits, and I will also say that I am sharing with you what worked for me. I've tried a number of other processes organically. For example, I tried index cards for plotting and moving chapters around, and that did not work for me because there's no space on index cards for me to get to know my characters. 2 sentences with 2 names of people who I don't yet know can't didn't help me organize a route uh, to an endpoint. They were simply words on the page, so I needed to work with more content and move that around. And the chapters for me, they feel more grounding, particularly because I discovered that my plot came from my characters. That may not always be the case for people. I am aware that people write plots and then they just plug characters in. Um, for me, as a first timer, I found that my plot was absolutely driven by who my characters are, what drives them, what motivates them, what their histories are, no different from real life human beings. So I had to root around in the sandbox first before I had enough grounding in the novel to begin to move things around. So I needed more space, and I did that in the form of chapters. That being said, all of this is up for grabs. I'm telling you what I did and what worked for me after trying a few things. And I encourage you to try a few things. This is not the be all and end all. Again, I'm one of a gazillion of people on the internet who are talking about this in some form or another. So, index cards might work for you. They didn't work for me. But I just wanted to share what my process was. And as you begin to get into your own process and discover your novel, and as the weeks wear on, you will make adjustments to what it is I'm suggesting, because you're gonna find something that works for you. Okay, that really works for you. You're gonna take some of what I'm suggesting. Oh yeah, that's really cool. You're gonna go, man, that didn't work for me, but I like this other thing over here that I tried or I read about. That's terrific. Actually, that is absolutely terrific. So let me just tell you what I did. It's a template that you can choose to use to whatever degree that organically fits your rhythm. The first thing I want you to do is print a copy of your cover. Remember, I asked you to make your cover page 72-point font with your title, 28-point font with your name. The other thing I didn't ask, and that is to add a novel underneath the title, because it usually says a memoir or whatever, a subtitle for nonfiction books, but usually all novels will say a novel. So yeah, and that makes sense. So black and blue. So this is what's going to look like. So you print it out, And isn't that nice? Like isn't that, you see your name, you see like it's real now, okay? When we write down our dreams, we transform what we imagine into reality. Yeah, you can quote me because I said that. You print your cover page out, and at some point, whenever you're ready, if you're still playing with your chapters in puzzle format, I call it. Let me get this. You can have a big binder clip. You see, this is kind of stuff I like. When I go on the internet and I want to know how somebody did something, an artist, like I really want to know how they did it. I'm free to discard 90% of what they said, but I want to hear everything that they did. So so I'm giving you the whole nine, a whole ball of wax here. So when they're still in puzzle pieces, this is actually my novel, chapter 14 to 32. I'm still, you see some of my red lines. I like red. I don't care what anybody says. Red is good because you can see it. I use black pen and I miss all my notes. But at some point later, a little later, when you start moving down the funnel and you get into you're getting into actual writing. Right now, you're just plunking. You're not writing. You're not writing anything. You're plunking, chunking, and plunking. When you start getting into writing, crafting sentences, paragraphs, that kind of thing, then you don't want all these wild sheets. You still want them, your chapters in separate documents, but then you want them in this nice little ring binder. And if you don't have a three-hole punch, I live with a three-hole punch since middle school. I've always existed with a three-hole punch. You can go to your local print shop and punch it there. And so this way you have, this is my book from chapters 1 through 14. And this is actual, sentence writing, scene description, dialogue, and all that. This is still working on this, but I'll get to I'll get to this later in our season of the journey. So you take your cover and you get a notebook. I went to my favorite store, the dollar store. So these are kind of a little flexible kind, but that's okay. And then you just tape this on. If you want to get a fancier notebook, you can slide it in the pocket, but you just tape it on, and there you go. All right. And again, with separate documents and the fact that this is a 3-ring binder, you can still, as you get further down the funnel, okay, and you're getting into paragraphing and sentences and all that, you can still move your chapters around. Okay. So print out your cover page, and you know what? Go and have yourself a seltzer or an orange juice or whatever, and celebrate, because look, it's your novel and it's real. It's exciting. I don't know. I'm excited about my novel. I hope you're excited about yours. All right. So now, so we've already discussed. You have a folder called Manuscript Chapters. All right. Those are the ones you're working with in the current moment. I would encourage you to create another folder called Chapter Archives. And let's say once a week or so, you take the previous iterations of your chapters and you just copy all 32. You can do that in one click with in Word, and you just move them. You just drag them into that, okay? And then you just keep the current one. The reason you do this is because you don't know what you might want to go back to. A lot of stuff is going to land on the cutting room floor, and you may find down the road, particularly when you get feedback from readers, and we'll talk about who they are and why and how you get them and all that, you might go, I want to go back to that first iteration of this plot thread. Well, that was 2 months earlier. Well, it's in your archives. All right, and you go, yeah, I was working on that around late September, so you can go back and get it. I highly encourage that. Not a mandate. We've got a folder called Sandboxes, as I said in the last session, there are three kinds of sandbox documents. The first is when your subconscious and conscious mind have fun and they just play and they brainstorm with one another. The second one type of sandbox document is your research documents, and the third, I love this as well. Well, actually, I don't put it in the sand. It is a type of sandbox, but I actually give it its own folder, and I have the folder called Scenes Without Homes. Okay, Scenes Without Homes, or actually Scenes That Need Homes. That's what it is. Scenes That Need Homes. And in Scenes That Need Homes, the difference between, we know what a research file is. We know what the first type of sandbox file is. But the difference between Scenes That Need Homes and the first type of sandbox file where you're rolling in the sand, different aspects of your mind are rolling in the sand and brainstorming with one another, is that scenes are fully formed. When scenes come, this has been my experience, perhaps you've experienced it already. This happened to me very early on in my process. By week 3, when the scenes come, they come. I mean, literally, I'm writing for an hour. It's just the full scene, the characters, the dialogue, the exposition, what's happening around them. I'm literally taking dictation, and it's fully formed. And I have to tell you, it doesn't change much. And based on feedback that I've gotten from one reader, I'm going to get some more. That's actually the strength of my writing thus far, of my novel. They just come, and I do edit them, but barely. So they are really, like, they're already down at this level of the funnel, way at the neck of the funnel. So they really kind of need their own space, because my experience is that you're not going to have to touch them too much. But the difference is, the concrete difference is that they are fully formed, whereas the first type of sandbox is still just kind of, you don't really know what. It's kind of like this Ferris wheel of information that you still have to pluck through. It's not something that's concretized and formed. Let's see. And the other thing is, I mentioned this last session, but please put in each of your chapters, use a footer, use page numbers. All right, so you're going to have essentially 2 footers. You're going to have the page number, and then above that, you're going to have chapter, let's call it 12, and whatever the date is. All right, and depending upon how you work on these different chapters, because they're individual documents, some are going to have they're going to have different dates. The idea is not to have the same date. The idea is to keep track of what you wrote when, just so you know, if you discover a chapter somewhere and you go, oh, what is this? And you're like, oh yeah, I wrote this a month ago. Oh yeah, you have a sense of iteration, and that's really important, I have found. And I have worked with people on writing their books, and if they don't organize their files, they spend 30-40 minutes each session. Where is it? I don't know which one it is. Man, that is such a buzzkill. There's nothing fun about that. All right, so this is really the end of the end of the week. I did everything that I said I was going to do. The only prompt is really to just continue having fun. Stay in your trance states, still have fun, be in that pants stirs flow. And actually, I do have one more session for you, but it's just going to be a fun set. It's a story. I'm going to tell you a story time. So you don't have to, if you were eager to get all the the material to continue working on your novel, you have it. The next session, which is session 4, is just going to be story time. This is a story I want to share with you. Alrighty, so listen. In the meantime,